Communication is one of the most important things in everyone's daily life. Without communication, we would not be able to have civilization or cooperation on any level. To be educated on communication is also critical to have competent communication. Many things work together to create communication, but there are some that I see as more important than others. Throughout this course, I have learned many important things about communication, but the three most important are the way perception impacts communication, how to handle speaking anxiety, and how to properly exhibit communication competence in interpersonal communication. To us, perception does not seem overly complicated because we are constantly doing it with little to no thought, but in reality, it is a complex process. Perception is defined in the textbook on page 31 as the process of selecting, organizing, and interpreting information to give personal meaning to the communication we receive. The first step in the perception process is selection, which is the sorting of one stimulus from another according to the Communication Making Connections textbook. We use selective exposure, selective attention, and selective retention to decide what we will perceive. These are ways to choose and pay attention to what stimuli we are experiencing and then remembering and retaining it. The second step is organization of the stimuli we do select. Typically, when we are perceiving things, we are also organizing them into categories automatically to help us decide what to do subsequently. We use closure, proximity, and similarity to help us fill in the blanks and to make the categorization and organization easier according to the textbook. Finally, we end the perception process by interpreting the stimuli that we have now selected and organized. This helps us decide what these stimuli mean. We interpret based on our past experiences, new situations, on others' opinions, and on verbal communication. Once we figure out what type of situation we are in, we can assign meaning to stimuli and then react with communication due to the things around us. Perception is essential to the communication process, and we must use it to communicate competently. Without the perception process, we would not know what we were responding to, and that would prevent us from responding with appropriate communication. Humans would have an incredibly difficult time communicating competently without perception because they would not be receiving information, and that would inhibit them from partaking in any type of effective communication. Most anyone who has had to speak publicly or speak to anyone at all has most likely experienced speech anxiety. According to the article, if first-year students are afraid of public speaking assessments, what can teachers do to alleviate such anxiety? Oral assessments are critical for a balanced and complete education, which is true, but along with that oftentimes comes immense stress for the students. On page 217 of Communication Making Connections, it states that speaking anxiety cannot be cured, it can only be managed. Practicing is a major aid in lowering speech anxiety. According to if first-year students are afraid of public speaking assessments, what can teachers do to alleviate such anxiety? The more a person practices, the more comfortable they will become speaking about that information. Practicing in front of people can also help alleviate the stress that comes with an audience and help the speaker figure out how an audience might react. Another method that can help us is meditation, which just helps the speaker be calm. Meditation is defined in the Communication Making Connections textbook as the process of spending time in quiet thought. It helps us to clear the mind and slow the thoughts so the speaker can be focused and aware. According to interpersonal communication skills, interpersonal communication is face-to-face communication and essential to live a successful life. To competently communicate with another person, according to the textbook, we must be able to adapt to the conversation, appropriately respond, self-monitor, have the ability to be fair and ethical, and be able to understand both points of view. Knowing how to communicate interpersonally is crucial to competently do so because it is such a major type of communication. Without interpersonal relationships, we would not be able to make connections that we need to further our success in life. We also need interpersonal communication to have effectiveness and efficiency in the rest of our styles of communication. It is gravely important to competently communicate. Competent communication holds a lot of different concepts, but three main things are the way perception impacts communication, how to handle speaking anxiety, and how to properly exhibit competence in interpersonal communication. People need to have perception to have communication at all, and especially competence in that. Without a handle on speaking anxiety, no one would be able to communicate efficiently or effectively. Interpersonal communications are essential to get anything done in a person's life and to be able to communicate competently overall. This course has taught me many things, but those three are ones that I will use forevermore.